Joining me now for this conversation, we have Dr. Vumi Msweli, founder, Hesed Africa Foundation. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's lovely to join you.
Fantastic. Great to have you, and happy holidays. What are the most in-demand skills across Africa right now, and how fast is that changing?
So the change is happening rather rapidly. According to the World Economic Forum, the skills that are going to be required for the future are critical skills, critical thinking, communication, creativity, surprisingly, which makes sense with how artificial intelligence is starting to move traditional skills apart. And what we're finding is that by the time someone starts university and ends university, what they've learned is no longer going to be in use. So it's changing rather rapidly with 2 to 3 years and how the skills are going to be required.
And there's something quite maybe unusual happening at this point, or maybe it's usual. We're seeing high unemployment, yet companies say they can't find the right talent. What's driving this disconnect?
So the disconnect is this. In essence, what we're looking at is 57% of African youth, about 304 million, are currently working in 2025. We anticipate that by 2040, we're going to have 437 million young Africans working. However, the skills that are in demand are not the skills that are in the market currently. There's a massive shift, as we've seen with Oracle, letting go of over 18% of its workforce because all those jobs are going to be utilized by AI in essence. So the skills that we have on ground are not what the current economy requires. So what we're encouraging a lot of young people to do is take a look at what skills and what jobs are going to be required in the next 5 to 10 years. Of course, in the field of IT, we still anticipate that there'll be a great demand. How things are working in the medical field, we're expecting a little bit of a reduction there, as well as specifically in the fields of accounting as well as law. How law and legal practice is currently being executed is not what's going to be happening in the next 5 to 10 years.
Right. I don't know, we've celebrated the gig economy so far. It's supposed to be helping out, with young people looking for work, at this point. But we're seeing the gig economy, there seems to be some risk around it at this point. With rising energy prices, we're seeing those that are engaged in ride-hailing services, they're actually protesting, at this point. They want the prices to go up, but they're not going up fast enough. How much of a risk is, what's playing out right now to the gig economy, in your opinion?
So the gig economy, also known as the portfolio economy, is definitely at risk when you're looking at things like any other job, specifically with fuel crisis. However, we anticipate that by 2030, 1.03 billion people will be participating in the gig economy. It's the how we're going to participate that becomes critical. If you are still in the space where you physically have to move, your risk is substantially higher. If you're in a space where you can do the work literally on your laptop and are able to access international markets, thereby earning international currency, then you're in a position that's probably more advantageous than someone who's currently using e-hailing systems in order to generate extra revenue.
All right, so, going into, well, we're still in a fresh month, April, but I know May, we like to, celebrate the workers. What's coming up? What are you seeing, happening this May?
So, of course, Workers' Month is happening in May, as well as Africa Day. And I think it's no longer just about history and identity. It's really about economic participation and whether African professionals are really positioned to lead in industries shaping the future. Africa has a rare labor force advantage. And the real question is whether we're able to convert that advantage into dignified work and entrepreneurship as well as leadership. MasterCard Foundation recently did a study that says 57% of African youth are going to be working in 2025. But we anticipate that's going to increase substantially by 2040. We find ourselves in a state currently where 54% of the world's population is leveraging AI in their workplace. But unfortunately, actually, fortunately for us, in Africa, 64% of workers are currently doing that. So I think looking at the future, definitely African workers are going to be an advantage. We have the advantage of youth. We are finally starting to get the advantage of digital transformation. But of course, conversations need to continue as to how do we leverage this advantage. And I think that's why we look forward to events like the Africa Career Summit, where we gather the youngest professionals, the most amount of young professionals across the continent to have these critical conversations.
Yeah, definitely. They need to be had at this point. Thank you so much, Dr. Vumi Msweli, founder, Hesed Africa Foundation. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays.